Hi everybody, I am going to show you how I make these larger fringe fleece blankets, and these are great for child size or even a small adult, and they have the fringe on them. There you can see the fringe, but these blankets are not tied, so that means it's more economical and cheaper because you only use one piece of fleece, and they're not as thick either. And then that way you don't have the knots, either the hard knots. And these make great Christmas gifts. I make these every year as Christmas gifts. And so I'm going to show you how I do it, and I'm going to give you the yardage I use to make like a child size. My son is 11 and he uses these blankets. They're big enough for him. And like I said, it's really cheap and economical to do it this way instead of using 2 pieces of fleece, because that's just more expensive, more work, and make a kind of a thicker blanket with those, and it has those hard knots on it. So you're going to need, or at least this is what I use, is 2 yards of fleece. And I'm going to show you the Spider-Man fleece I'm using right now. This is a blanket for my grandson. I'm just going to get it all laid out here. There we go. But this is 2 yards of fleece. And I'm going to show you some tricks I use on how to cut the fringe nice and straight, so there's no guesswork. Now I have that all laid out on the floor, and then I'm going to take that top end and I'm going to fold this over onto this end. And I'm going to make sure the edges are even. Oh, and I should mention, before I laid this all out, I cut off the selvage, edge. That's the selvage edge. And this is the selvage edge. And this is a 60-inch wide fleece. And like I said, it's 2 yards of fleece. So that is 72 inches. And I made sure that it was square. And by square, I mean that the top was cut nice and straight and even. Because sometimes when you get your fabric cut, they don't cut it so nice. So you got to make sure that it's squared up. Okay, now that I have this the way that I want it, I am going to take Christmas paper. The Christmas paper, you all have some, you all have some in your attic or in your closet, but it's the Christmas paper. Can you see that, with the 1-inch grid squares on it? Okay, and now I'm going to take this paper and I'm going to lay it down on top of the edge, from edge to edge. And I have some fabric weights here that I am going to use to hold this in place. You don't have to use fabric weights. You can use pins, you could use book, you could use your shoe, you could use a cat. It does not matter. Just because I'm using fabric weights does not mean you have to use fabric weights. You got to think out of the box sometimes. And because my Christmas paper was not 60 inches across, I had to cut 2 pieces of this paper. And what I've done is I've cut this paper 8 inches high. See, it's 8 inches high. I counted 8 squares, so it's 8 inches high. And I'm going to show you. see how I have that laid out the entire length of the fleece? And I'm going to start in this corner. And I want my fringes to be 6 inches. So that means in this corner here, I have to cut a 6-inch square. So I'm going to count up 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'm going to cut across 6 inches. I'm going to cut up 6 inches. And you're going to take that away. And that's my 6-inch square, and we're going to do that from each end. There we go. And now that I have both of the corners cut out, you can see that, I am going to cut my fringe 1.5 inches long. And I like 1.5. I don't like 2, and I don't like 1 inch. 1 inch, after you wash them, they get kind of spaghetti looking, because that's just too skinny. So I'm going to cut this. I'm trying to figure out a way to do this without my tripod being in the way. So 1.5 inches up. And I know to stop at that 6 square. And I'm going to do this all the way across. So I'm going to finish this up all the way across, and then I'll show you what comes next. Okay, now that I have the fringe cut all the way across, I am just going to remove this paper. I'm going to throw this away. No good. And now we still have to do this side here. So again, I like to fold it. Okay, and once you have this edge all nice and folded and straight, wrinkle, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to have your second piece of grid paper, and you are going to cut the fringes again on this side. My fabric weights, like I said, if you don't have fabric weights, use soup cans, use pins. Think out of the box. And again, I'm going to cut the fringe. You don't cut a square. You've already cut the squares out. So again, I always like to make sure the fringe isn't tucked under there from the side that we cut. And now, again, we're going to go 1.5 is the width, and then I'm going to go up 6 inches. Okay, and I'm going to do that all the way across. Okay, now I've cut the fringe along the long end of the fabric of the fleece, and now we're ready to make the fringes secure. So I want my fabric, I want the right side up. And yes, fleece does have a right and wrong side. And I usually do this part, you know, when I'm sitting on the couch watching TV or something like that. And I always, when I'm cutting on the couch on my lap, I put a magazine, because I do it on my lap, so I put a magazine on my lap because I have actually cut my pants doing this. This part I'll show you here. Now you can see where we cut the fringes right here. Let me zoom in a little bit. There we go. And what we want to do is we want to bring the fringe through a tiny hole. So I'm going to go just above the fringe, and I'm just going to snip a tiny hole. And it helps to have spring-loaded scissors for this part. And then I find the little hole, you know, make it as little as possible. You don't want a big gaping hole. And then I stuff the corner in there, and then I pull it through. And there you go. Your fringe is locked in there, and it does not come out. You'd think it would, but it doesn't. Okay, again, here's the fringe. This is 6 inches where I cut up, and I am going to make just the tiniest little, can you see? Is my arm in the way? I'm going to make the tiniest little snippet just above there. Let's see, just a tiny little hole. And then I'm going to bring the fringe up through that hole. And there we go. It's all locked in there. I'll zoom in. It's kind of a dark, this is kind of the darker part of the fabric, so it's hard to see. But that's what it looks like on the front, and this is what it looks like on the back. See, I like it when it's rolled to the back, but you might like that as your front. It's just preference. And here, I'm gonna do it on this fringy so you can see better, because it's a lighter fabric or lighter color. Okay, again, I got these little, that's where I ended my cut, and so I'm just gonna go in the middle of this fringe up a little way and make a tiny little hole. And then I am going to feed a corner of the fringe through the hole and pull it. There, you can see that better because it's a lighter color. But there you go, and you're going to do that all the way around this fringe blankie. And you will have the fringes all locked in, and when you wash them, they won't come out. And this is a very economical way to make these popular fringe blankets, and you don't have to tie knots, and you don't have to use 2 pieces of fleece. That is a plus, because I know fleece, you know, like this fleece I actually got like at I got this Joann's online, and with the coupon it was free shipping, and this was 60% off this fleece. So again, you bring it up. But there, that's how you make your fringes on the blanket. Isn't that nice? And like I said, I like the fringes 6 inches. That's the way my grandkids and my kids like their fringes, but you can even make them shorter if you want. And you can also make the blanket longer if you want, you know, for, you know, a taller child or what have you, or for an adult. But you know, I'm 5'2", and these blankets actually work for me too. But that is how I make my no-knot, 1-piece fleece fringe blankets. And there's the Hello Kitty one. That was last year's. But thanks for watching. Bye.